Marilla, knock it off. Hello, creeps. Andy here. Long time no see. Marilla, stop. Hi guys! So today I wanted to compare the movie to the book, The Ruins. I read this one this month and I also watched the movie this month as well. I had never seen the movie before, so I thought that I would just compare the two today. A lot of you in my last book haul said that you guys read this book and loved it, and let me tell you, if you have not read it, first of all, this was the best book that I read this year, and I think one of the best horror books ever written. It's like 500 pages. I read it in a few days because I could not put it down. It's so amazing. So it's gonna be a little different from my normal videos because it's not so cut and dry, the difference between the book and the movie. A lot of the stuff does overlap, and a lot of the differences are the similarities too. That probably doesn't make any sense, but I promise it will. So I'm just going to give a synopsis of the book, talk about some differences, some important moments I think in the book and the movie, and then just kind of talk about my thoughts on both of them. So let's get into it. Marilla, please stop. Yeah, you. Anyways, both the movie and the book are about this group of 4 Americans. So there's 2 different couples. There's Amy and Jeff, and then Eric and Stacy, and the girls are best friends, and that's kind of their dynamic. They go to Cancun, Mexico for kind of like a final trip before they move on with their careers. Jeff is going to medical school and etc. So they end up meeting 3 people from Greece and 1 person from Germany. The people from Greece don't speak English, but the German does. They become friends with them and they start talking, and they're partying and hanging out together. Matthias, who is the man from Germany, explains to them that his brother actually went missing with an archaeologist, and that he has left a note for Matthias to go and find him because they're going to find some ruins. And Jeff is just so excited. He is off to medical school, so he knows this is kind of like his last big hurrah. He doesn't want to do the typical touristy stuff, and he's like, let's go. And you can tell from the beginning that he is kind of the leader of the group, just the natural leader of the group. Everybody else just kind of follows suit. And so they decide to follow Matthias into the jungle. So they have to take a bus and then a taxi to get to the place, and it's a few miles hike in the jungle. Here's a difference between the book and the novel. In the book, if they have hit the Mayan village, they've gone too far. And I think this is important, but I'll bring it up in a little while. But they go to the Mayan village and they see the Mayans that are, tending to their crops. They have huts that they've made out of mud and things like that. That I'm going to talk about in a second, but just keep that in mind. In the book, they don't hit the Mayan village, but in both of them, they end up finding where this new path is supposed to lead, but it was definitely purposefully covered, and so the girls are kind of questioning why that is the case. They find that the Mayan children are kind of following them, and once they get closer to these ruins, the children run back and go and get their families, and some older men show up with a gun and bows and arrows. They start kind of speaking angrily at the Americans, at the group of tourists. However, there's a language barrier and they really don't understand what's being said. First they think they want money, and then they don't know if they're like trespassing on their land, and they don't really know what's going on. Well, Amy, who has taken pictures throughout the trip, is kind of backing up to try to take a picture. She steps on the vines of the ruins, and suddenly that changes everything. Now the Mayans aren't trying to tell them to leave, they're telling them to go up on to the ruins. Now here's an important part in the movie that's not in the book, is that one of the people actually dies in this moment. So that I think just ups the stakes even more. It doesn't happen in the book, but it's pretty clear that they will hurt them if they don't go up. But I think like that added, oh, they'll kill you if they don't, just kind of, ups the ante a little bit. They end up finding the remains, not remains as in bodies, but the remaining items from Matthias's brother and the archaeologist that was there. Now they slowly come to find that the vines are just not normal plants. They can like mimic behavior and noises and things like that, and speech. It's very interesting. So when I first started reading the book, I was like, oh, it's about a killer plant. This is not going to be for me, but that's not really what it's about. It's definitely more of a survival story for sure, and I think that's why you're so drawn into it, or at least why I was, because you feel like you're sitting there on those ruins with those people, and you're like, what would I do differently? What would I do the same? How would I fight to get out? How could I survive? It's a really interesting kind of mind game through the whole thing reading this. So anyways, Fantastic novel, seriously, highly recommend. I can't recommend this one enough. I don't think it's a book that most people wouldn't enjoy. Was that confusing? I think it's a book most people would enjoy. It really, I think, is for anybody. It's just so well written and fun and great and all that. So anyways, all of this has been quite the same besides the few minor things that I've pointed out. And then even here, things are like the same but a little different. The girls' personalities are swapped in the movie and the film. So for example, in the book, it is Stacy who's more of the promiscuous one, and she wears sandals into this hike in the jungle, which I think is a big comment on someone's, you know, mental capacity when you're going for a hike and you wear like flip-flops. That is actually Amy in the movie. So she's more of like the promiscuous one. She's the one that wears sandals. Is it a huge change to the entire novel or the entire experience? No, but it is just kind of interesting that Scott Smith, who I don't even think I mentioned, is the writer of this book, kind of played around with the characters a lot, and I'm not sure why he did that, if he did it so that you could experience both the movie and the book and feel like you're not reading or watching the same thing that you've just experienced, or if it was for another reason, I don't know. I read on Wikipedia, we all know we can't use this as a solid fact, but I did read on Wikipedia that he actually wrote the script and then wrote the book from it. And I think he did that with both books that he wrote, which is a really interesting way of writing, I think. But another thing that I will say is that a big difference is that the characters are the same, but the way that they get hurt is different in the book and the movie. They experience each other's pain. So for example, the way Pablo, one of the men from Greece, gets hurt in the book is the way Matthias gets hurt in the movie. The way Eric gets hurt in the book is the way Stacy gets hurt in the movie. So it's kind of interesting that they're just kind of switching each other's experiences. Like I said, I'm not really sure what that is about, but I'm kind of glad that it happened because you do get a new experience when you're watching the movie. It is a bit different. So other than that, I will say that there's another really big pivotal scene, and this one actually happens in the movie. Wait, let's go back to the one that happened in the book. So remember how I told you they went to the Mayan village? Once they're up on those ruins, you see these Mayans start coming out of the forest and they start building a camp at the base of the ruins. Now, I think that showing the village was really important in the book because it showed they have a place to live. They have their own city. They don't live around the ruins. They have to literally pick up everything and bring it for miles through the jungle to protect these ruins. And so I think that kind of just goes to show like how much they take it upon themselves to protect this area, or I don't want to give too much away, but you know what I'm saying. Another thing I will say is what happens in the movie. I'm going to give away a tiny piece of it, but Amy actually comes down, picks up a piece of the vine and throws it. It hits one of the Mayan children, and the man who forced them on top of the ruins actually turns and shoots the little boy. I think this is a really important part in the film because it goes to show the Americans, oh, he's not just after us. It's about the vines, it's about this place, and anybody who touches it potentially has to be rid of. I also think it's interesting that their main issue, although they are a little bit worried about running out of food, it does end up raining, and so they're less concerned about water, but their main issue really is that the vines keep mimicking each other, and so they're getting mad at each other. They're not so much concerned about like, oh, we have to find food, we have to do this. They're like, oh, well, so-and-so's talking about me. So I don't want to give away what happens with anybody's fate or anything like that. The last thing I will say about the big difference is the ending. The endings are very different. The book is definitely more of a cynical ending, whereas the movie's a little bit more of a hopeful ending, although not fully. Let's talk about the book and the movie individually. So let me say that I loved the book. I loved it. I honestly, I can't recommend it enough. The film, however, I feel like if I just watched the movie, I think I would have enjoyed it. I think the practical effects are fantastic. I think the acting's really good for like a low-budget horror film. It's a good film, but keep in mind, obviously, they have to use CGI. There's like talking plants and stuff, so it's probably not a movie that I would have watched and been blown away by, but I think that reading the book did make me want to watch it more and enjoy it a whole lot more. It's one of these, again, where I've talked about this before, where if you read something and watch it, it's weird that they kind of fill in each other's gaps, and I think this is a prime example of that, because some of the things that happen in the film you get more feel of reading the book and vice versa. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth watching the movie and reading the book, but I would say out of which one I enjoyed more, absolutely the book. It blew me away. There's also some very like intense parts of the book where I'm reading it at 2 in the morning going, oh no. That being said, it is definitely not all of the book, and a lot of the book is just kind of the survival, but I think what Scott Smith does well is he makes you feel like you're on those ruins with them. I wanted to read this line to you because it seems like a simple line, but I think that it's just so telling and so gross. So I'm not going to say what happens leading up to this, but just know that an individual got burned. We're in the perspective of Eric. He says he could smell it too, and was appalled to feel his stomach stirring in response. Not in nausea either, but shockingly in hunger. Oh my gosh, it's just so gross. So anyways, highly suggest you guys pick it up. I know that a lot of you guys have read it, so let me know down below. Do you love the book? Do you love the movie? Do you prefer one over the other? Also, let me know if you guys have read the other book by Scott Smith. I'm sure it's a good book, but it's not horror, so I just want to know if you guys have read it and how you feel about it. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. That would be it on the comparison. I will see you again on Sunday with another horror video. As always, my second channel, Original Fiction, and my Instagram are all linked down below. So I will see you Sunday. Bye, guys.